All right. This thing says I'm live. So if you can hear me, let me know that you can hear me. So that way I can say we're live. And that way I'll feel better about being live in front of you. Oh, I think I can see myself coming up on the screen. I just want to make sure the audio is good before we get started. So if you can hear me, just shout, I can hear you. Just type in the chat. That'll be helpful. It says live. I see a congratulations. So, and we can hear you. Okay, well, then let me minimize this. And we'll get started. We'll talk. Because, I mean, what a day. What a day. What a week it's been. DevNet Associate was Monday. Took that at 8:15 a.m. Central Time. I already live streamed about that and talked about it a lot. Excuse the cough. So let's kind of talk about it a little bit more, and then we'll talk about DevCor and ENAUTO 2, and I'll answer some questions along the way. I mean, it's still kind of mind-blowing what a week it's been because it's been so exciting. I've spent so much time working on DevNet stuff since they announced it in June. Sorry about that cough again. But here we are. So I took the DevNet exam, the DevNet Associate, Monday, 8:15. And, you know, going through the exam, I'm feeling like this is a good exam. This is a tough exam, but I feel like it's going well. And I ended up scoring a 951, which I'm really proud of, right? So we can also minimize this here. And it was really true to form. What they put on the blueprint is what it was. They didn't lie about anything. They didn't hide anything. Sorry about this cough. I've been fighting it all week. But they were very honest about what was on it, and it was really just an effective way to measure your DevNet skills and your ability to work programmatically with APIs and with Python as well as the Cisco platforms. Going into DevCor and ENAUTO, a little bit less confidence going into that one. So, I mean, I've been working on DevNet stuff since they announced it in June. That's been my sole free time has been network automation. So, you know, I've gone pretty deep into this stuff. That being said, my primary focus was on the DevNet Associate, particularly for CBT Nuggets. So I didn't spend a whole lot of time dwelling over the bullet points on DevCor and ENAUTO, and I wasn't super confident about what I was going into. I actually was walking into these exams today going like, there's a pretty good chance I'll fail both. I was really just wanting to explore the exams, see what they were like, how much more of a challenge they would be than the DevNet Associate, and really kind of get a feel for what the questions they are, what are they going to ask, what are the key points that they want to talk about. So that way when I sit down to record my CBT Nuggets content, while I'm not going to give away the exam, I know like these are the spots that I don't want to miss. I want to make sure that I teach these sections the best of my abilities and that it will set you guys up for the most amount of success. So my goal there was just to explore. It wasn't really to pass. And believe it or not, I scheduled DevCor for 8:15 a.m. and ENAUTO for 11:30. And when I checked in today, I told them I'm going to take DevCor. And when I come out, I don't want to see the exam results. I don't want to know if I passed or failed. I want to go into ENAUTO with a clear mind and a clear conscience and just focus on that. And then I'll look at the results for both when I'm done. So they let me do that. They were cool. So I took DevCor and I started taking DevCor and I'm sitting there thinking like, this is going a lot better than I anticipated. Like I'm doing, like I understand the questions that they're asking. They are a lot more involved than something like the DevNet Associate, but I wasn't overwhelmed by it. That being said, very similar to DevNet Associate, more than 100 questions, 120 minutes to take the exam. When I was 60 minutes into the exam, I had 60 minutes left, I looked up and I was on question 39. Uh-oh. So I'm sitting there like kind of panicking, kind of freaking out for a moment. And I'm like, okay, next 60 minutes, gut reaction time. Whatever's in your gut, check it off. That's what we got to go with because time is of the essence. And I saw other people report a similar experience when they were taking the DevCor exam. They reported that time management was their hardest part, and that they finished like at the buzzer. I finished my last question, I think, with right around 10 minutes left on the clock. So time management, huge part of the DevCor exam. The questions are much larger and much more involved. So, again, sorry about this cough. My whole family has been sick the entire month of February. We've had flu cases, RSV, ear infections, the whole 9 yards, broken tendon on your finger. It's been a wild month, so I'm just now recovering over a little sniffle and cough myself. So, still coming up a little bit. Anyways, so DevCor. Walked out of the exam feeling like might have failed, might have passed, kind of on the fringe. Very tough exam. Big step up over what the DevNet Associate was. ENAUTO was the one where I was going into it thinking like, hey, I've got a good chance on this one. And caught off guard by the level of difficulty on the ENAUTO exam. Wow. The ENAUTO exam really expects you to have done the things on the bullet points. And when I say like done the things on the bullet points, I mean like don't worry about like, oh, there will be some documentation, it'll guide me through it. Maybe there will, maybe there won't on your exam, I don't know. But I'm saying that the expectation for the ENAUTO exam is that if it says like construct an API call to work with SD-WAN to do this task, or construct an API call to work with Python libraries to work with Meraki to perform this task, they expect you to have done that at some point so that you know what this API call and the responses are supposed to look like. Like the expectation there is that you can automate these enterprise networks. It's very, very real. And what I think we should do actually at this point. Okay, so sorry about that. Little bit of a technical issue. Apparently, if you refresh your screen, it looks like it comes back. Anyways, not sure what happened there, but I think we're good here. So, anyways, ultimately, what happened just now is my computer literally crashed in the middle of the stream, just completely froze up, TCP or memory dump or something. So I'm back, and I think I'm up and running. So, sorry. Anyways, let's do this. Let's jump back to the exam outline. We've got DevAsk we'll talk about first. I was trying to show off my little Meraki camera, and what I was saying about the Meraki cameras, guys, this camera is $1,500. If you want to know why this camera is $1,500, YouTube video coming Monday, 5 minutes long, called Why Meraki Cameras Are Awesome. It will blow your mind. I promise. 5 minutes of your time worth watching coming Monday. And these Meraki cameras, you'll see part of the ENAUTO exam, part of it. So anyways, let's check it out. We've got DevAsk. We kind of have covered the DevAsk already. I've got an exam breakdown video here on YouTube about the DevAsk. It's a killer exam. I mean, when you see things like this stuff, guys, interpret a basic Yang model, identify workflows that are being automated by a Python script, application deployment and security, construct a Python unit test. Like, I'm not going to tell you what was on my exam. I'm not going to violate the NDA. But what I'm telling you is that when this exam blueprint says these are the core things that our expectations of you are, they really mean that. And there was no trivia on any of these exams. All three of them, there was very, very little to no trivia at all. It was, can you construct a Python unit test? Can you, what does it say? Identify the attributes of these deployment models, virtual machines, bare metal containers. Like these blueprints that what they say are on the exam, I mean, I just love how honest they were. And that's why I really appreciate how good of an exam this was. So if you're like preparing for any of these three exams, well, like, again, I'm not going to tell you what was on my exam and how you should prepare for that type of stuff or what the types of questions were. I'm saying that you need to be able to look at this and honestly check these off and say like, yeah, I was able to do that. DevCor, the big one, right? This test was so massive. So there's 20% on each of these domains, evenly split. I think that was a really interesting choice right out of the gate. Because, it wasn't like there was one section that you just had to know more than the other. You really had to have an even balance of all of these things. Now, these 5 domains almost perfectly match the domains on DevNet Associate, with the exception that there wasn't like network fundamentals on this. That doesn't mean you don't need to know networking to take DevCor. It's just that they're really focusing on taking your software skills a layer deeper. So I like to look at things like when you look at software development design principles, the APIs that are listed here, even application deployment and security. This is all like, we're beyond Hello World now. We're beyond connecting to a device and just receiving basic data. This is now, what do you do when something goes wrong? How do you validate that the data that was sent back to you was correct? How did you secure the data, that like your authentication, your credentials that you use to authenticate? You've created an app. How are you logging correctly in the app? How are you logging to both the terminal and to critical aspects like that? So just really, really taking it up a notch. And making sure that you understand going beyond just the basics of connecting and getting data. The Cisco platforms that are listed here, I mean, again, they're just kind of spot on. Not going to tell you what was on my exam and what questions they asked, but when it says describe these steps, construct these Python scripts, do those. Do those in your own lab environment before you take this exam. I think that's going to be a pretty important part to it. Yeah, I mean, what can I say? Like I said, DevCor, the big thing about this exam was time management. These tasks that are listed here are not small tasks, but you have a lot of tasks to do in 120 minutes. So for me, my big stressor in this was not the questions themselves, which kind of surprised me. The stressor here was getting through it in quick enough time, and I really did have to rush in the second half of my exam. Now, in auto, this is the one that I went into this thinking like, hey, I've got... Sorry about that again. I've got a good chance of passing this because 80% of the exam is on the network stuff. It's on automating network devices, and I felt like that was really in my wheelhouse. Let's click these drop downs here. 80% of this exam, we've got basically the industry standard stuff, netconf, restconf, Yang. Know that stuff. Like lab it inside and out, understand how the requests are constructed, how the responses are constructed, understand the benefits of doing these things, interpret Yang models. If you just like looked at the raw like PyYang file, YouTube again, there's a video on YouTube called Yang Uncovered or Yang Explained for Network Engineers. You'll want to check that one out because that's really what we're talking about, exploring network models. And of course, CBT Nuggets, we've got like, I'll talk about CBT Nuggets in a minute. Don't worry, I'm going to get to my course and we'll talk about what's coming at CBT Nuggets. But DNA Center, again, like, do these things. Don't read about them. Don't watch other people do them on videos. Like, you do the video, like, watch a video and then follow along and make sure you're understanding the responses that are coming back. SD-WAN, I think, was the one that clobbered me, which kind of surprised me. I felt like I was pretty strong with SD-WAN going into this, and I think I've got a little bit more that I need to go back and study up on before I shoot that. But I feel comfortable now about having gone through it. And Meraki's my baby. Meraki, I'm wearing Meraki socks. I've got Meraki camera sitting right here in front of me and Meraki infrastructure back here. In fact, I am finishing recording a course for CBT Nuggets this weekend called Implement Meraki Networks. This has nothing to do with automation. If you're brand new to Meraki, we've got skills on firewalls, switching, Wi-Fi, cameras, and the basics of understanding the Meraki dashboard and how to interpret their reports and everything like that. So all of that is almost done. I've only got Wi-Fi left to shoot. I'm shooting it on Friday, and it'll be done in the books. Implement Meraki Networks coming in the next couple weeks to CBT Nuggets. The APIs are what I'm immediately recording right after this, starting this weekend too, which is going to be directly for the ENAUTO exam. I am working on the ENAUTO exam. We're kicking this sucker off, and that's going to be the next major course that comes out for your Cisco certifications for CBT Nuggets. ENAUTO and Encore on the way right now. And I recorded a network automation portion with Network Chuck for Encore. So, yes. Okay, so exams covered. How do you prepare for these exams? All right, first things first, CBT Nuggets. I've said it a few times throughout these series on YouTube. When I was creating my content on CBT Nuggets for the Cisco automation portion, I felt strongly that we needed to take things a step further than just Hello World. So I actually did look at the exam blueprints for DEVCOR and ENAUTO and saw, like, what are they going to ask for, and maybe I could demo a little bit of that as part of the DevNet Associate. So in our DevNet Associate course, you will be very well prepared for the DevNet Associate and a step towards DEVCOR and ENAUTO already completed. That's not to say that the DevNet Associate course will prepare you for the DEVCOR and the ENAUTO. It is just a solid step in that direction because we do cover a lot of the topics that are covered here on these blueprints. I was able to pass today because I've been studying this stuff and working on this stuff literally since they announced it in June. And I've had experience with DevNet prior to this too, but this has been like my sole focus for the last 8 or 9 months. Beyond that, a huge thing that I'd recommend, if you're like totally new to network automation, like brand new from scratch, I'd really recommend you check out Chuck Keith's content on CCNA 2. He's got like, what is network automation? Like network automation 101, like why are we even here? Why are we even talking about this? What is Python? What is an API? That is stuff that that will help you in a big way. I think he's got 4 skills in total. I could be wrong on that on the CCNA. That just kind of set up what are the basics to network automation, and that would set you up for the DevNet Associate. That being said, that doesn't mean you can't start on the DevNet Associate. It's absolutely a starting point. And Ben Finkel guides you through the basics of like working with Python, working with APIs, understanding the details there. And Ben's content literally set me up for success on all 3 of these exams. And that's not an exaggeration. I don't think anyone has ever taught those topics as good as Ben. That being said, if you're new to networking, is anybody on earth better than Keith Barker at networking fundamentals or even the deep stuff? I'm peer reviewing his stuff in CCNP right now on Spanning Tree. And I feel like I could go take that test right now. Like it's just, I was very lucky to work on this course with Ben and Keith. I really was. And, watching their content, I literally watched our course to prepare myself for these exams, and I passed. I passed the DevNet Associate with a 951, and I passed DevCore and ENAUTO 2 days later, back-to-back tests. Again, I have been working on this for months, but I do feel like you can get started right now with our DevNet Associate course on CVT Nuggets, and I feel strongly that it will set you up for success on the DevNet Associate and give you a leg into DevCore and ENAUTO. And maybe by the time you're done with DevNet Associate or you're starting to get through the stuff with ENAUTO or DevCore, we'll have that other stuff out. Because like I say, like I am literally working on ENAUTO right now. I want to get that into your hands. And now that I've taken the exam, I have a better idea of how I can frame that course for you. So yeah, just huge shout out to the team at CVT Nuggets for supporting me and letting me work on this stuff, because it's my baby. It's my jam. Final things, I'm going to be at DevNet Create in 2 weeks, and I'm going to be speaking at DevNet Create. I'm going to be talking about how to build a Meraki commandlet in PowerShell from scratch. And something I feel pretty strongly about, I have a Meraki SDK in PowerShell on GitHub right now. I work on it actively. Giveaway, major giveaway coming this way. What am I giving away? Awesome stuff. How about switches? Juniper switches, Cisco switches. How about firewalls? Juniper SRX, we'll throw that in there. And for my international fans, how about Raspberry Pi kits? Yeah, got a few of those sitting around. We'll ship them internationally. So check back into next week or the beginning of the following week. We'll run those giveaways during the DevNet Create conference. So yeah, that's my thoughts on DevNet Associate, DevCore, and Encore. Amazing exams. Most fair exams I've taken yet. Just honest, follow the blueprint, take the blueprint seriously, and keep your eyes peeled for more network automation content coming to CVT Nuggets. Now I'm going to look at the feed and take some questions. Let's see what we got. Bart asks, have I spoken at a conference before? Not only have I not spoken at a conference before, Bart, I've never been to a conference before. Knots, are you going to tackle CCNP security automation? Okay, so personally, I literally pulled the Encore book off of the shelf as soon as I got home today, and I've decided I am going for my CCNP and then my CCIE. I would love nothing more than to do security automation after ENAUTO and DevCore. Security automation is a huge one for me. I loved working with the Firepower devices and the Firepower API. Had a blast shooting those nuggets. So look, my goal is to shoot every single one of these automation exams for CVT Nuggets. I just know that like DevCore and ENAUTO need to happen now, especially while they're like fresh in my mind. Any recommendation for CCNP Encore? The book is a phenomenal book, and it is solidly on the way at CVT Nuggets. I don't know if I can totally put a number on it, maybe 50% or more done. I'm certainly done with my part, but when is it coming out? Couldn't tell you that, but it is definitely underway. Who is working on it? Keith Barker, Jeremy Chara, me, Network Chuck, and Jeff Kish. Highly recommend you follow all of those people. Am I making DevCore course on CVT? I'm doing ENAUTO first, and then if I have anything to say about it, which I think I do, I'm going to go into DevCore next. Let's see. Could an experienced software engineer rock up and nail this exam with a bit of network knowledge? Probably. I mean, it definitely helps to be experienced in Python, and you will probably want to watch Keith Barker's networking fundamentals section of this. But you'll really want to get, make sure you're familiar with like Git and CI/CD pipelines and the architecture of CI/CD. Would you recommend DevNet certifications for people interested in becoming a solutions architect? So Chuck was talking about this last night, and I kind of blew up his feed. And so I have two jobs. I work for CVT Nuggets as a trainer. I'm also the director of IS for the LSU Foundation. If I'm reviewing resumes, and I've got a CCNP in one hand and a CCNA with a DevNet Associate in the other, I'm taking the CCNA with a DevNet Associate. I know that's a bold statement. I know a lot of people don't like that, but I'm going to say it, and here's why. The person who got the DevNet Associate with CCNA tells me that they are caring about the future. They are thinking programmatically, they are thinking solutions-oriented, they are thinking about version control, and they are thinking beyond networking, which is the world that we live in now. And the cloud has changed all of that. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think you're going to find a job posting out there right now that's looking for a DevNet associate by itself. But if I'm reviewing someone, I would rather have someone with a DevNet associate and a CCNA than a CCNP. That's just my opinion. Let's see what else we got. Lots of questions. Okay, I like this question. Was there any Cisco wordplay on the exams, or were the questions straightforward? Questions were straightforward. I mean, there was not trivia, but like when you're looking at these exam blueprints here, and it says like, I'm just pulling this out of nowhere. Like, I'm not saying this was on my test or not. Troubleshoot Cisco DNA automation process using intent APIs. Have you done that in your lab? If you've done that in your lab, then you can check that box off and say, okay, I'm prepared for that. Because, like, they're not doing any wordplay there. They've told you, like, this is going to be on your test. So, again, not saying that was on mine, but that's when you're talking about the ENAUTO and the DEVCOR, like, you need to take these exam blueprints literally. They were very upfront with and honest, and there was not any trivia or wordplay. Like, they were to the point, which I think was really cool. Okay, how did you study for ENAUTO? There's hardly any study material for ENAUTO specifically. So what you're really asking me here is, how did I make my course on CBT Nuggets, and how am I going to continue to make my course on CBT Nuggets? I took this exam blueprint here, and I saw, like, for Meraki, configure a network using Meraki APIs. I then went to developer.cisco.com or developer.meraki.com, and I found the documentation on it, and I did it on my own. The result is what I recorded for CBT Nuggets. In our actual specific DevNet course, I think this is one of the most valuable skills you'll learn in our DevNet course, is that we start by exploring the API documentation. In just about every single Cisco platform there is, we explore documentation so that you can learn how to read this specific document and make your own request from it. Now, of course, we then go a step further. We build a request in Postman so that we can test the API, and then we wrap it up by actually scripting out a request in Python so that you can see how a request and response would come back in Python. Again, I think that's kind of emphasizing how we took it a step further than what the DevNet Associate may need, and a step well into ENAUTO. While that being said, like, we're seeing things like location scanning APIs, MVSense API, external captive portal API. Didn't do that stuff in DevNet Associate, but we did things like working with networks, working with clients, working with devices as part of the Meraki API, and we even have a special skill on using the Meraki SDK. So greatly simplifying the way we interact with these APIs. Wherever there was an SDK, I tried to shoot videos on it. ACI had the ACI Toolkit skill, DNA Center had the DNA Center SDK, Meraki had the Meraki SDK. So I did try to show SDKs, and then I took it even a step further and showed you how you could automate all these platforms with PowerShell too, if that was what you were interested in. So I learned ENAUTO literally by reading the documents one step at a time, one bullet point at a time, and just testing things out. But yeah, I did also try to cover a lot of that stuff in the DevNet Associate, so you could start there. Let's see. Yeah, you're expecting the phone interview at a university like LSU. That's awesome, man. Congrats. I'm excited for you. Let's see. How tired are you from taking all of these exams in the first few days? I know. So my brain, from the hours of about 12 to 5 was pretty much just mush. That being said, tomorrow morning I'm going to drink my coffee and I'm going to start reading Encore. That's just who I am, I guess. I've been studying certifications since I started studying for my Network Plus in 2015 with Mr. Barker. I subscribed to CBT Nuggets on my own for years. Got my Network Plus, then CCNA Security, then JNCIA, MCP, and SQL Database Administration. Started CCNP route, failed route, and then the very next week, my employer incentivized me to get my MCSE. So I feel like I've got unfinished business with the CCNP. And but the DevNet stuff, I mean, I'm very passionate about DevNet. I really believe in the future of networking is through some form of automation. Maybe not as strict and formalized as you'll see with things like Ansible and CI/CD pipelines and source control. I believe in all of those things in their own unique ways. I think it'll be a long time before network engineers get to that level. My personal opinion, there is a feeling that software developers like to insert themselves in a nice way with the best of intentions into a lot of areas. It's kind of like JavaScript. JavaScript can do everything, but maybe it shouldn't. Do we really need JavaScript databases like NoSQL and document databases? I mean, yeah, there's scale and there's a lot of huge benefits to it. But at the end of the day, when I see a NoSQL database, I'm thinking, that's someone who really didn't like SQL and didn't like relational databases. They knew JavaScript and just wanted to drop JSON documents into a file. So anyways, I kind of feel like software developers don't always have the best solutions. Another one that I feel kind of strongly about is telemetry streaming and visualization. I know that everybody just loves Elk and Grafana. They're free, but are they the best? I don't know. Having come from the business intelligence world with Tableau, SSIS, Power BI, data flows, there's no way you could convince me that like spinning up an Elk stack is going to be better for my organization than Power BI, which costs very little money to begin with. Again, just my 2 cents. So anyways, any labs on your exams? Don't think I can answer that, but I love the question. What I'll say is when it says construct API requests on these exam blueprints, make sure you've constructed that API request on your own in the lab. You'll want to be able to construct these things on your own and interpret the responses on your own before you go into this exam. Let's see. I'm glad you love PowerShell. I love PowerShell too. Does CBT Nuggets have a course on building dashboards using telemetry? So, I have a YouTube video called, I forgot what it's called. I think it's like Stream iOS Data into Power BI. That is an idea. It's not the subscription-driven telemetry that the exam has on the blueprints here, but it is a fascinating start. So Power BI has something called a streaming data set where you can literally just send it post request whenever you want. And if it's got a JSON payload, if you tell it how to interpret that JSON payload, it will literally live update your dashboard with statistics and everything. And all of that's hosted in the cloud. Power BI, the service, is built on Azure Data Lake Gen 2. So when you stream data into Power BI, you're actually streaming it into persistent Azure storage that's built for petabyte level processing in seconds. So there is that. Telemetry will be coming as part of the DevCor exam. I know I'm going to work on all of it, and I'm going to do the things that they say in the exam blueprint. So if they call for an Elk stack or Grafana, that's what you're going to get. So it's on the way. Let's see. Any other questions before I wrap up? I think I'll give it a couple more seconds to let some questions roll in. Thank you guys for joining this live stream. I'm sorry about the technical issues, and I'm sorry about my coughing. That's not fun. But again, big things on the way. DevNet Create, going to be awesome. I'm going to be there with Jeff Kish, who is recording the Encore stuff right now. If you don't know Jeff, 2-time CCIE, one of the best instructors I've ever seen. He has a way of... So sorry. He has a way of making things visually appealing and very easy to watch. So, yeah. So I'll be there with Jeff Kish. Meraki camera video coming to YouTube on Monday. You will want to watch that, I promise. It's 5 minutes. I can't get over how cool this thing is and what it can do and how it's going to change businesses and maybe even save lives. I'm serious about that. Check it out. Yeah, cough. I know I've been coughing so much. It's really because my whole family has been plagued. I'm not like into witchcraft or voodoo or anything. I live in Louisiana, but there might be someone out there with a voodoo doll who's like pinning my family right now. And it's been a pretty wild month of illnesses in our household. Let's see. Okay, so one guy asks, can I pass the DevNet Associate DevCore with only the DevNet Associate for CBT Nuggets? No, you will need supplemental training there, but it will give you a step into DevCore. It does go beyond DevNet Associate, and that's pretty cool. I think it's going to be a really good primer for DevCore until we get the DevCore course out. It is ENAUTO and DevCore. I'm on it. Trust me. Let's see. Do you find DevNet Associate useful for DevOps engineers? I think that's a perfect exam for DevOps engineers. DevOps engineers have been primarily focused on deploying servers and app architecture with Kubernetes, or just any type of distribution of application services, maybe your load balancing, whatever the case is. The network's been overlooked. And maybe that's because network engineers have held it close to their chest. Or maybe it's because, just technology hasn't caught up to networking, but it's here now. So yes, I totally believe that any of the DevNet exams are relevant to someone who's into DevOps and Dev Engineer. All right, so DevNet Create, me and Jeff Kish will be there. Meraki camera video coming on Monday. Keep your eyes peeled for a massive giveaway where I'm giving away switches, firewalls, and Raspberry Pis. And yeah, I'm pretty tired. I'm pretty excited about how all of this exam stuff went down. Sorry about the technical difficulties where my computer cut out. Sorry about the cough. But yeah, that's it. That's all I got to say. Thanks for stopping by, y'all. See you in the next one.